Good morning. Welcome to the gray screen and black box show. I don't know why they do it to me, folks. I've been, for probably 45 minutes now, I've been trying to upload different thumbnail art from the movie Mad Max, and YouTube just will not let me do it. I'm going to have to go in and fight with them after the fact. So I apologize for the whole gray screen. Black box, I don't know why they do it to me. To our channel specifically, I don't know, but it's always something. They're always trying to get under my skin, make me uncomfortable right before I go live. I don't know. But anyway, we're going to be talking about fighting back this morning against globalism. Maybe that's why they're doing it, huh? Couple of things here. I saw in the chat, folks, Hatch, 5x5, thank you. I saw in the chat, First Waffen needs prayers. So if you're the praying type, please do that. First Waffen's been through a lot. First Waffen was a moderator here and just awesome. Second, y'all called it, son. The fix is in, Gavin Newsom. I need some thoughts on Gavin Newsom before we get started. Gavin Newsom was smiling like a rooster this morning there in North Carolina. And I don't know why. You're such a bad governor. They literally tried to remove you from office. And this is a big win now for him, apparently. I don't know. The man can't lose. He's probably going to run for president eventually. And Night of the Living Prepper, I'm glad you're here, brother. I'm going to mention you this morning because my wife hit a similar situation. He had emailed me yesterday or messaged me, and we're going to get into that. Finally, a little bit of intel. We talked about this on Patreon yesterday. You may or may not have heard of the intel already. Not trying to bore you. I wrote down the name very closely here so I pronounce it right. Massachusetts. Am I saying that right, y'all? The governor there has deployed the National Guard to 4 different counties, and they're expecting more counties to have National Guard presence. Why, you ask? To drive school buses, because they have no school bus drivers. So the National Guard is actually being deployed now to bus kids back and forth to school. And we talked about this on Patreon. I think I put something like Joe, the jobs president, or something like that. But there you go. I just wanted to mention that. So how do we fight back against the octopus we were talking about yesterday? I'm going to call it the octopus, but I'm talking about globalism, okay, folks? And more importantly, yes, in uniform, Night of the Living Prepper. These folks are going to show up in uniform. They now have to. There's a couple of good points that Patreon left, actually. One person said, so now these people have to leave their jobs and leave their employers shorthanded to go in and do school bus duty. And so that's an excellent point. But second, somebody pointed out, and this is kind of scary, actually. What if they are conditioning kids to think it's okay to be bussed around by soldiers? Just something to think about. It's ridiculous. So how do we fight back legally and peacefully? And again, when I say the octopus, I'm talking about globalism, okay? So let me tell you my wife's story, and this is where Night of the Living Prepper comes in. He's facing the same thing. Many of you are. She found out late last night that by the end of the year, she's either going to have to take the whiskey shot, mandated, or she is going to have to go, they said, off-site about 45 minutes once a week, 45 minutes each way, to be tested at her expense. And it's going to be around $40 a week. So in other words, she's going to be punished if she doesn't take the knee. And she was kind of upset about it. She works in education. For those that don't know, I don't know if I've ever mentioned this, but she works with special ed kids. She's incredible at her job. She loves her job. She doesn't want to leave. But I know deep down she's going to tell him to stick it. So she was upset last night. She was like, what am I going to do? And I was like, baby, you already know what you're going to do. I know what you're going to do. It's just a matter of when you're going to do it and what fashion you're going to do it in. So that's her story. Again, Night of the Living Prepper and many others are in a similar situation. You know, you've emailed me, folks. You've said, I really don't know what to do. They're holding my job over my head. You know, I'm going to have to potentially lose my job. And it sucks. All right. I'm going to tell you a story time. And I promise it's relevant and it's going to make sense. I'm going to make it make sense, okay? So once upon a time, when I was much younger, I worked a job that I didn't really care for. I made a lot of money, didn't really care for the job, to be honest with you. But we were saving for a house. We had a tiny apartment, a 13-inch color TV in our living room, and I ate bologna sandwiches every day. True story. At work. And we were just squirreling money away so we could buy this house. Long story short, I lost the job. The job ceased to exist. And I got unemployment at that time, but it wasn't like now. You didn't get $3,000 a week for 17 years on unemployment. It was bare bones, barely made it. And I found myself wondering, what am I going to do? You know, I don't have steady income. I don't know what I'm going to do. Eventually, I found a crappy job in a factory that paid almost nothing, and I was glad to have it. Worked it for a year. Better opportunity came along. I moved to that. Made a little more money, not much. And then I sold my first book. And then I sold my second book. Because at this time I was writing, you know, in my spare time. And I said, wow, I can start doing this from home. And I started to get a lot of emails from people that were interested in writing, and they were asking questions. But what I noticed was it was the same 20 or 25 questions every time. So I said, you know what? I don't know anything about this YouTube deal, but I'm going to start a YouTube channel. And I'm going to go ahead and answer these questions, and then when I get the question, I'll just send the person the link. That's how this channel started. And it evolved to Prepper Nation. What I'm trying to tell you this morning, if I wouldn't have been faced with that situation where I was scared and I didn't know what I was going to do next, we wouldn't be having this conversation this morning. You understand? You were not put here to worry. This is what I told my wife last night. Okay? God has a plan. And his plan is not for you to be here worried about what you're going to do for fiat currency. That's the message I'm trying to get to you this morning. Trust the plan. All right? So that's number one. Globalism, the idea of the octopus, it is fear-driven, okay? It is about total control, and it is about total submission. So in other words, they want you to be afraid, they want you to submit, so they have total control over your life. And that's the truth. That's probably why I couldn't upload a thumbnail this morning, okay? So I brought some visual aids. That's number one. Number one is getting away from the fear. All right? There's really two steps to defeating the octopus. Get away from the fear. Don't live your life in fear. Don't let them take your joy away. Live your life. All right? God has a plan for your life. Joe Biden does not. And if he does, I trust God's plan a whole lot more than I do Joe Biden's. Just saying. Number two. Understand how this works. This is fiat currency, okay? This is monopoly money. Visual aid, right? It is how they drive fear. It is how they control us, and it is a tool of submission. Let me ask you a question. Okay, so we're all going to take our final breaths one day, right? We ain't getting out of it alive, or at least that's what they tell me. So, when you're laying there taking your final breaths, do you think you're going to be laying there thinking, man, I made a lot of money in life. I bankrolled $300,000 and it's in the bank, son. And I have a Rolex sitting at home, you know, on my coffee table, and I have a BMW or something like that. Do you think you're going to be thinking about that crap when you're taking your final breaths? Of course not. You're going to be thinking about your family. You're going to be thinking about your friends. And you're going to be thinking about all the memories you had together. That's what's important, not this. Do not chase this, okay? Because this is going to take you nowhere. But submission. Instead, what I'm going to encourage you to do this morning, and I have to say this, Rudy Alaska Prepper always says it. He's not a financial advisor. I'm not either, okay? I'm a guy with an opinion. I'm going to encourage you to take this and turn it into this, for starters, okay? Or turn it into this. All right. Or turn it into this. Something like this. Anything that has actual value, because during a Mad Max situation, this is only going to be good to light my cigars with. Nobody's going to want it. Nobody's trading me food for it. Nobody's trading me gasoline for it. Nobody's trading me ammo for it. You understand? You need to take care of business now. If you're going to be a prepper, you need to trade the fake money in for the stuff with actual value. Because during a Mad Max, value changes. People are no longer worried about Rolex watches and how much money you have stacked up in the bank. They're worried about, what am I going to eat? Where am I going to get gas for the generator? Things of this nature, okay? Get this stuff now. Get free of the system. They threaten to force you out of the system. Somebody made the comment yesterday, they're trying to push us to the fringe of society, and it was a great comment, okay? They're trying to force you out of society and into the fringe of, society. But you should already want out. You shouldn't want to be a part of the charade. You should already want to be on the fringe, doing your own thing. So they're threatening you with something that you should already be wanting. All right? And finally, before we get to the chat, I just want to mention this because I think it's very relevant. We talked about it a little the other day. I think Southern Prepper One maybe did a video on this. I would have to go back and look. It was somebody in the community, one of the heavy hitters. They were talking about, the bank accounts and the legislation Joe is trying to jam through. It would start, if it goes through, it would start in 2023. Any bank account with $600 or more, they would be able to go through at any point in time and just check your transactions, see where the money's going, keep an eye on you, basically. And you want to know why? Because the Octopus, globalism, they do not want you trading this for this. They want you focused on this. You understand? This is worthless. They do not want you stockpiling these. They do not want you to be self-sufficient. They want you chasing worthless money your entire life like a drone with your head down, totally compliant. And I'm telling you this morning, the way that you defeat globalism is you get away from the system. Do you think the Amish care about globalists? I'm not saying you have to dress like an Amish. I'm not saying that you have to, ride in the wagon, even though they're probably going to take our driver's license eventually if we don't take the whiskey shot. I'm not saying you have to do anything crazy like that. You can still be a person that you are now. Get away from the social programs. Take away everything that they threaten you with. Go ahead and remove it from your life and trust the plan. Don't live in fear. All right, I'm going to switch over to the chat. I will get off my soapbox this morning. By the way, for those that are asking, probably nobody, right? Miles are bad. That's an 1884 Morgan dollar. It's probably going to take a little more than this. Might take this and another $15 to buy that. But y'all get the point. All right, so let's see here. Let me ask this. Anybody else facing that situation where their employer, since Joe's press conference, their employers came to them and said, you have 2 weeks, you have 3 weeks, something like that? Tamara says, I like the soapbox. Well, I get on it from time to time, but I don't carry it around with me. Prophecy, Biden wants people to quit their jobs to finish killing the economy. That's an excellent comment. Here's the thing. I don't think globalists are ready for our economy to crash just yet. I don't think they have their pieces in place. If Joe is targeting 100,000 Americans and threatening them with their jobs, and half of those people, just half, 50 million, say, you know what, I'm just done, and they walk away from their jobs, we can actually crash the economy before globalists are ready for that to happen. Just opinion. So a few people are in the same situation. My wife was upset. Again, she's been there 15 years, but she's made some connections. She reached out to one of her former supervisors who is now running a private school. here nearby, and she may be trying to lock down a job there. And they do not have 100 employees, and they're not pushing the thing. So, Frisa says, I'm on disability and I'm worried. Unfortunately, I did see yesterday where they are expecting the Biden administration to go after the disabled and SSI also. Of course, if you ask him now, he would say, no, we would never do that. But he flip-flops quite a bit. Mike says, I was tossed from my EMT course because of the jab requirement. That's ridiculous. Lana says, what about truckers if they refuse the whiskey shot and quit? What do you think life will be like then? Oh, it'd be horrible. Our economy will come to a standstill because truckers make it happen. But you know what? Maybe it's time for us to take the stick away from Joe Biden and hold it up to him for a change and say, we're going to wear you out, son, unless you start listening to the American people. Maybe that's what we do. Mame says, I'm going to be screwed if they go for disability. They're going to go for anything they think can hurt you. Because, again, that's how these people operate. They feed on fear. They want you to be afraid. Because when you're afraid, you're more likely to submit. And they know that. Sassy Gal says, this week is National Walkout Week. I did not know that. I need to mention that to my wife. She was livid last night. Her thing was, okay, so last year they switched to virtual, okay? But they had the teachers coming in, helping in the cafeteria. They were still preparing lunches. They were bagging them. And then they had to ride on a bus to certain spots, you know, here in the city, Mount Airy, and hand them out to kids so kids could still come get school lunches. They just drive up to the bus and they get to school lunches. I mean, they got used. They were doing a lot of stuff that they're not contracted to do and told, hey, you're a hero. And now they're just throwing them out by the wayside. You know what I mean? Prepper Truckin' says 1 of 100 will not stop. The rest of us are. I hope that's true. That's the quickest way to send a message to the President of the United States, I think, would be for all of our dock workers just to say, no, we good, son, and just walk away. Or for the trucking industry to do it. Because it gridlocks the country at that point. Jason says, freedom and liberty are values, not instinct. Sorry, I'm not trying to bore y'all. I'm reading the chat because I missed a bunch of it. I will go back. Tim Osmond says, we are 150 million Americans. I mean, honest to God, folks, Biden gets up here and he threatens you with something that he threatens the American people, right? I'm going to take your jobs away. If you let him, it's going to collapse the country. I mean, the guy's a moron. He's basically giving you the answer to all of the nonsense, how to end the tyranny right now. But he's using it as a threat. Hillbilly says food is the next weapon. I agree. Orlando, many days are like Terminator movies, I'm telling you. Fan of the Terminator series in the 80s, by the way. But yeah, I mean, I agree. Jody Chop, National Guard training to drive passenger buses. Yeah, they're going to be busing kids back and forth to school. It's probably going to spread out of those 4 counties to surrounding counties, and it could start popping up in other states as well. Because employers are already desperate, okay? Which makes no sense. They're already desperate for employees, so they're dropping the hammer and they're going to watch a bunch of other people walk away that they can't afford to lose. School systems are no different. They don't have bus drivers, pretty much nationwide. Schools are really struggling with employees and things because that's one of the places where you're I hate to say it, but you're exposed to C-19 a lot, in the medical field and also in the education field. Jennifer Cruz, I highly recommend everyone follow Patriot Nurse. She is awesome. I've watched her several times. I've got probably 10 or 11 creators that I watch on a weekly basis. And I'll go through and I'll just binge their stuff and I'll try and get caught up. And then I have other creators that I'll watch when I get the alerts, the notifications, which is almost never. But I'm subscribed to probably 250 or 300 here on YouTube. Cogito, that's a very good point. Congress is not mandated, yet they want to force us. And I have nothing against postal workers, okay, at all. I love our postal worker. He's awesome. But I don't think they're mandated either. And I don't see where picking and choosing based on the need of the industry is actually going to stop the pandemic. To me, that seems like a control measure. Salty Gummer, is that right? Says Wolverines. That's one of those things, you could say Wolverines and everybody knows what you're talking about. Homestead Jen. I cannot find freedom seeds anywhere. Any ideas? You can check online. There's some online dealers. Some of the folks in chat actually get them online, and they may be able to tell you who has stock and who doesn't. Sonia, no, I'm not ignoring you. Just trying to stay caught up here. Ammo Seek. So there you go. Thank you, Hatch. Ammo Seek is one of the spots where you can go online, and hopefully they have it in stock today. Oh, they don't sell to your state. It may be one of those deals where you have to drive out of state. Sometimes if you have pawn shops in the area, sometimes they'll carry it as well. You may overpay a little bit, but that's been the case for a year now. Academy and Bass Pro is stocking up. I need to get back to Bass Pro. I've not been there in a while. I always spend too much of this when I'm in Bass Pro on stuff that I don't really need. I'll go in there and I'm like, oh, that looks like a good bug out bag. Here, let me get this. And I've got 6 back here. Arlene, does anyone know of some good work from home jobs? This should probably be my next move. So if anybody knows about any jobs work from home, that would really help folks out right now. You're welcome to post it in the chat. Obviously, some jobs you can do from home and some you can't, right? Florida, let's see. James says Florida has it right. They are arresting federals trying to enforce the mandate. It is getting gnarly between DeSantis and Florida and D.C. And the thing about it is, the people in Florida seem to love DeSantis. Like, they seem to have his back no matter what he decides to do. So if he's one of the first ones that says, hey, let's just leave the union, I think a lot of people in Florida would back him on that as well. Reckless Reese says, go to Indeed. I'm assuming jobs, put remote in the location field. And West Virginia Homesteading says Indeed has a lot of work at home jobs posted as well. So hopefully that opens up some doors for a few people here. Sharon says insurance license tests are so high. There are way too many agents right now. Thank you, Reckless. That's for jobs. Nikki B, how long until the booster will be required too, John? I think they're going to come out and they're not going to tell us it's going to be required. They'll say, oh, it's optional, just like they did the whiskey shot. by the end of the year. I think they're going to push it on employees because once they get you to take the knee by holding that job over your head, they got you. And they can continue to do it. You know, you're going to do this or you're going to lose your job. You're going to take this or you're going to lose it. Kimberly says, pet food in my area is gone. I've heard that from a lot of people, especially on Patreon. Even goldfish food. Wow. No, I thought it was just like the bagged food and the canned food. There is a huge aluminum shortage. I saw that news right before I went live when I was fighting with YouTube earlier. And they're expecting it to go way, way up. Yeah, Disciple, you're not fully covered unless you have the booster. But the problem is the booster doesn't last forever. It's a never-ending cycle. You know what I mean? You're going to have to go every few months and take that knee. Odin's Wolf, Convention of States, secession, that's what I'm talking about. The Convention of States, I've had a couple of people bring this up, and it's an interesting topic. They said we have to be careful because with the Convention of States, they can actually start changing the fundamentals of, you know, the Constitution. But on the flip side, I think if we don't have the Convention of States, we're doomed. We're not going to be able to hang on to the country the way it is. So we got to do something. It's got to be drastic. And the Convention of States, for me, is the next step. Hatch says none of the boosters will last. Absolutely. You know, people are literally getting filthy rich right now because, you know, in pharma. Tribe, what's up, brother? Let's see here. Man, any lingering effects? The only one I have really, man, right now is I'll sweat for no reason. I'll be in front of an air conditioner and I especially the back of my neck will start sweating and I have no idea why. But I did see where I watched one of your videos where you passed a stone or something and you had to wait forever at the hospital, right? And I was curious, is that because of so many people there with C-19? Was the hospital overloaded because of that, or what's the deal? Or doctor's office? I don't remember which one it was. I remember you said you were in a lot of pain. Nikki B, yeah, my daughter, she had a temperature and she was like sneezing and stuff like that. The next day, she still had the temperature. She wasn't sneezing anymore. Day 3, it was over. Like she was completely better and good to go. But where I'm older, and I'll be honest with y'all, folks, there for a while I was vaping. I got into the vaping, right? I think that's what almost killed me when I got the, they said it was the Delta, I don't know, the COVID. When I got that, I think my lungs were messed up from the vaping. And I mean, it put a hurting on me bad. So all of that stuff went in the trash as soon as I was able to walk into the kitchen a week later. Tennessee Gym Girl. I need to go back and watch like the live chat on Prepper Tribes on that video. I didn't watch the chat. Prep Texas. How often do you train with firearms? I've been trying to go once a week. If I'm being honest, here lately, probably once every 2 weeks. Where I'm at, I live in town. I can't fire them off here. So I have to transport them to the bug out location. And over there, I can do whatever. You know, we'll just set up bottles. Or we'll take like old milk jugs and we'll fill them up with water and set them up, this kind of stuff. But man, I've been shooting since I was probably, I don't know. I got into it a little bit when I was 19 or 20. And I haven't. Not to say that I've been going religiously every 2 weeks since I was 19 or 20, but that's when I first started to get interested in them a little bit. Arlene says she's going to have to re-watch the chat and take notes. I'll be right there with you. I do that every day. Bad boy, there's no test for Delta, so how do they know? I'll close with this. Let me tell you how they told me that I had the Delta? Because that's a really good question. There is no test for it that they did on me. So they gave me the nasal swab. It came back like the quick test or whatever. They said you had COVID. So the people from the health department here in North Carolina called the next morning, the tracers or whatever they're called. And I couldn't talk on the phone. I was sick, so my wife's on the phone talking to them. And they were asking about my symptoms. When did this symptom start? When did this one start? And over the phone, based just on my symptoms and when they started, they were like, yeah, we believe he has the Delta. That's literally how they diagnosed me, was over the phone. So I don't know which one it was. It was not the flu. People started emailing and said, oh, you got the flu. I've had the flu, and this was 1,000 times worse than the flu. It was probably, man-made or bioweapon or whatever, but not the flu. Jan Sammy, I went in person. They diagnosed me with the COVID after doing a physical test, but the Delta, yeah, they diagnosed that over the phone. So any numbers you see on the Delta, at least here from North Carolina, I don't know how they do it everywhere else. It's being done over the phone. So I'm sure I went into that category right there. Yeah, it is ridiculous. What state governments will survive after SHTF prophecy? The ones with the most conservatives and the ones that are financially independent, I think. Some states don't spend ridiculous amounts of money. I think Texas is going to be fine. It can be its own country. I believe Florida will be fine. Look, compare Florida. Okay, I know they have the COVID going on and all that. That's all you see on the news. But financially speaking, they're doing great. And then you look at California and you compare the amount of homeless and stuff like that. It's not hard to see that liberalism leads to failing economies. And conservatives don't always get it right, but they do have, really good economies in some states. All right, folks, so I'm going to wrap it up. I'm going to go back through. I'm going to write down all the stuff I missed, which I'm sure is a ton. And then I'm going to kick over to Prepper Tribes. I got to find that video now and look at the live chat. If people were saying I got to read the live chat, then it must have been off the chains, huh? But I appreciate y'all being here this morning. Oh, and I got to go in and throw in some thumbnail art because YouTube's being goofy this morning. But I appreciate y'all being here.